Our next guest is Keisha Toni Russell. Keisha is a constitutional lawyer with the First Liberty Institute, the largest legal organization in the nation that defends religious liberty. I've heard Keisha speak, and she is a powerful presenter. She's also worked as a federal law clerk in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, everybody, and has written a new book called Uncommon Courage, Defending Truth and Freedom While There's Still Time. It is great to meet you, and I just want to thank you so much for defending our religious freedom.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
You know, Keisha, I was just thinking how we were really in a downward slope in losing our religious freedom. And I feel like, where are we right now? Do we need to still keep fighting? You know, where are we at? And you have a great pulse right now. So share with us what you're feeling.
So the good news is that in President Trump's first administration, he appointed a lot of great federal judges who believe in defending the Constitution.
Yes.
And so we're seeing the fruits of that now.
Yes.
But certainly there's still a lot of work to be done. We're still seeing a lot of attacks. First Liberty gets so many requests for legal help, and more than we could ever take. So there's still a lot to be done,
Well, maybe the government's changed, but the people haven't, right?
That's right.
People are still out there on social media tearing down free speech and also our religious freedom, and we get attacked when we try to defend it, don't we?
Absolutely.
Well, in your book, Uncommon Courage, you speak about tyrannical regimes, and we know that this has happened in many countries. We're unusual here in the United States. But what are some of the warning flags that we need to look for of tyranny in a nation so that we can become more aware?
So one of the first things that will let you know if you're dealing with a tyrant is that he will begin to persecute the religious, because the religious have a higher authority, and a tyrant doesn't want you to have any other authority but him. And so he wants you to only answer to him. And when he steps outside of his power, he doesn't want criticism. He doesn't want you to say no. And oftentimes, if you're a Christian and you believe in the Lord, you're going to obey God instead of man. And a tyrant cannot tolerate that. The other is the freedom of expression, freedom of speech will also be attacked. And that is because tyrants don't like criticism. They don't want anyone encouraging the population to defy them. And so free speech will go away, and we saw both of these things very prevalent in, say, Nazi Germany and Stalin's regime. All of that, that's exactly what happened there, is that they attacked freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
We are. It reminds me of that story in the book of Daniel, where Daniel, they were criticizing him because he was worshiping God for 3 times a day, and so they wanted to persecute him, throw him in the lion's den. So, I mean, sounds like it's very similar.
Absolutely. And so I tell Christians who say, oh, Christians are not supposed to be a part of politics, or they're not supposed to defy the government. And I say, which Bible are you reading? Because a lot of those people in the Bible had to stand up to the government in order to obey God. It's all over the scripture.
Absolutely.
I cannot help talking about what I've seen and what I've heard.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. The
Well, I know that
disciples, come on.
Yes. I know that we have a separation of church and state in this country. It's no secret. So how involved should the church be in protecting our religious freedoms?
Oh, heavily involved. I think the church has a critical role in educating their flock and making sure their flock knows this information, like what you're sharing right now, and also making sure their flock knows the truth, right? Because when it's the truth you know, that sets you free, right? And so you can't be deceived if you know what the truth really is. And unfortunately, our education system, our media system are all designed to deceive us and encourage us to disobey God's standards. And so it's important that the church educates the flock so that when we go out into the world, we can preach the truth.
Man, that's powerful. And you know, I was just sitting here thinking, I don't know, I think a lot with my heart. And I was thinking, what can I do so that I'm not getting into arguments with people, you know, but I'm speaking truth. I mean, how do we remain compassionate, you know, without compromising our convictions? Talk with us about that.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to engage in productive conversation, right? So the idea of casting your pearl, knowing when to engage and when not to. Because some people are just out to tear you down. But some people are really thirsty and hungry for truth. And so you'll have to discern that, you know, in your conversation with that person, in your relationship with that person. Oftentimes social media is not really a good platform for that. But not always, right? Not always, but so it's just up to us to figure out, is this person really wanting to have a productive conversation, a sincere conversation, or are they just trying to tear down me and God?
Well, and I think also really it's so much, I agree with you, because it's the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit guiding us continually, because there's so many times that we wind up, in essence, going at people when really it's the enemy that is in motion.
Yeah, and so even in our cases at First Liberty, right? So, for example, I have a client right now, Marisol Castro, 32-year veteran teacher, and she is being disciplined right now because she has a small little crucifix in her private space at work. Yes. And we're having to sue in order to pursue those rights, in order to protect her rights. And so these are the things I think about, because a lot of people ask me, do these people really need to be this way, or are they just ignorant? But when we write you a letter detailing the law and you still persist, then you know we're dealing with a spiritual problem.
That's right.
Right? It's not just ignorance. There's something else going on.
Hey, I would have gotten in trouble in school. If I was in school today, right, I would have gotten in trouble because I probably would have had a cross or Jesus or my Bible, you know, right on my desk. So, yeah, I mean, we've got to defend that, and we've got to defend it for our kids and our grandkids. So, Keisha, what are some ways that we can differentiate between what is just and what is unjust when it comes to religious freedom?
That's such a great question. So, and I get a lot of people to ask me that, but it's as soon as the government usurps God's role in your life, that's how you know. So if you're a ministry and all of a sudden now you can't serve the homeless because the government says, for example, one of our cases, Pastor Bell in Ohio, he allows the homeless to come into his church at night during the freezing temperatures. They don't have anywhere else to go. And the government told him he can't do that. Okay, that's a problem.
Right.
Okay, because it's interfering with his ministry and his ability to serve and love others. And so that's usually the boundary. You know, as soon as it starts to usurp God's role in your life, then you know there's a problem.
Well, you're going against culture. And anytime there's a counterculture, there's always going to be issues.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You have a background in education
Yes.
as well. And we see this a lot. So what problems do you see in the education system in this country?
Yeah, there are a lot, unfortunately. I don't know if you saw the Nation's report card. I think it just came out a couple weeks ago, and almost half of students can't read at grade level. Now that is absolutely preposterous, because if you're not teaching students how to read, what in the world are you teaching them?
Come on.
Like, that's like the basic, right? And so, number one, we need to improve the education that our students are receiving, and the other, we need a comprehensive education that includes things like civics, the value of the Constitution, the fact that Christianity informed the Constitution, that our founders believed in the fact that if you give man too much power, because he is corrupt, he will try to control you and he will become a tyrant.
Right.
And the way we address that is by what? Separating the powers, right? So that's why we have a separation of powers. Different branches of government, state and powers split between the state and federal government. That is a biblical concept that has been infused into our Constitution. And if our students don't understand that, then they're not going to understand how their freedoms came about and why they're so valuable and why they're so important.
Why do you think we've gotten to this point?
You know, I think what has happened is that over time, the culture has become more and more antagonistic towards religion, more and more antagonistic to absolute truth, more and more antagonistic to the fact that their desires are not the boss, right? And so I think the Bible is contrary to all of those things. And so the reason why is because Christians are a reminder to the culture that God is absolute truth. And there's no getting around that. And I think there's definitely some conviction there. And so the culture tries to silence us and keep us quiet. But the best thing we can do is proclaim the name of Christ and proclaim the truth of the gospel.
Jesus.
Because that's what we're here to do, and that's how we set people free from the bondage that the culture is trying to keep them in.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Keisha Toni Russell, for defending our rights in this country. You are brave, and I just love what you're doing. We all love what you're doing. And your book is called Uncommon Courage, Defending Truth and Freedom While There Is Still Time. You can find Keisha at her own website, KeishaToniRussell.com. Keisha, and that's spelled Keisha, Toni, Toni, Russell.com. And or you can navigate to the First Liberty Institute where she works, and their website is firstliberty.org.
Thank you so much, Keisha, for being with us today. And if you'd like to connect with us here at Pearls of Promise Ministries, you can go to pearlsofpromiseministries.com. You can email us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. We're on Facebook, X, and Instagram. And you can also find us at pop_ministries. All of our past shows and award-winning documentaries to fight anti-Semitism are on our Pearls of Promise Ministry YouTube channel.
And thanks once again to our show hosts today, Lindell TV and Overcomers TV, as we come to you from the NRB Convention Expo. We're just ordinary girls.
Who God turned into pearls.
Have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Overcomers TV, streaming now. Download our app on your smart TV, Roku, Apple TV, and more.